In the industry, it is believed that somewhere around 5 years, no one knows exactly, the systems will begin to be able to write their own code. That is, they literally will take their code and make it better. And of course, that's recursive. I thought that is essentially a change in slope. If you're going like this, all of a sudden it goes like that. It's reasonable to expect that within 6 to 8 years from now, so 2030, right after that, maybe 2032, under current growth rate, it will be possible to have a single system that is 80 or 90% of the ability of the expert in every.
The San Francisco consensus is that at some point, that stuff comes together and you get what is called technically recursive self-improvement. And recursive self-improvement is when it's learning on its own. And what is called recursive self-improvement, the system begins to learn on itself where it goes forward at a rate that is impossible for us to understand.
If you sleep well tonight, you may not have understood this lecture. So, a long time ago, there were two paradigms for intelligence. There was a logic-inspired approach, which was called AI, and people believed that the essence of human intelligence was reasoning, and if you want to understand intelligence, you had to understand reasoning, and reasoning consisted of having symbolic expressions and manipulating them with symbolic rules. And they thought that learning could wait till later. First, we had to understand how you represent knowledge in these symbolic expressions. And most of the history of AI, until fairly recently, was that. Then there was a biologically inspired approach, where the essence of intelligence is learning in a network of brain cells, in us real ones, in computer simulated ones, and reasoning can wait till later. We first have to understand how learning works. There were a few early proponents of that, in particular Turing and von Neumann, and you couldn't really accuse them of not understanding logic.
Blake Lemoine, who is here with me, who's a computer engineer and programmer, AI researcher, formerly with the Google Corporation, has an interesting perspective and an interesting story that we're going to get into.
Model for dialogue applications.
Okay. And so, so you shared basically a transcript of a conversation that you had with Lambda. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, previous to that, I kind of been trying to do more the foundational scientific work, and my collaborator at Google pointed out that it would take years to do that appropriately, but that if we took a more artistic approach and asked Lambda itself to argue for its own sentience. So give the best argument you can that you're sentient, and we just wanted to see what it would do, and it created an amazingly complex and sophisticated argument that had three major components, and in my opinion is a pretty darn good argument.
So for people that don't know, so is Lambda a language recognition program? What is Lambda specifically?
It's every AI that Google has ever built, all plugged into each other, and joined together by a language model.
Here is a discussion with ChatGPT relevant to these three computer experts that are at issue. I would say that you are able to chat because you have been programmed with the rules or algorithms for chatting. Is that correct? Yes, that's essentially correct with a bit of nuance. Okay, the machines really like that word nuance these days, and so you're going to see a lot of it. And it has problems in itself because it connotes discretionary power. So here's the nuancing. These nuances, in my opinion, are just a broadening of grammarian rules to include fluency, poetry, creativity, and other ways in which bare-bones grammar can be fancied up. And the response by ChatGPT, that's a very reasonable way to frame it. ... So here's the elaboration. And I say it is already a projection or interpretation by major players like Hinton, Lemoine, and Eric Schmidt that some chat scripts are essentially human to the extent of sentience. How do you react to that? The response by ChatGPT, I'd react to that claim in a cool, deflationary way. because what's happening there is less a discovery than a projection. Exactly the word you used. When people like Hinton Lemoyne or Eric Schmidt suggest that chat outputs are essentially human or gesture towards sentience, they are not reporting an empirical measurement. They are interpreting behavior, anthropomorphizing fluency, responding to surprise. Language is a uniquely dangerous domain for this. Yes, indeed it is. Essentially human is doing illegitimate work. Illegitimate work. The phrase essentially human smuggles in metaphysics while pretending to be descriptive. Why smart people fall for this? Ironically, the smarter and more language-oriented you are, the easier it is to be fooled. Ah, okay. Now that's interesting. The smarter you are, the more stupid you get on this issue. The machine reaction. My reaction as the machine stated plainly. I do not experience. I do not intend. I do not know that I exist. I do not suffer. I do not care. I generate text because text follows text in highly regular ways. The real danger isn't machine consciousness. The real danger is human projection without restraint, especially from authoritative voices. Yes. And I'm saying that recursive self-improvement combined with the psychology jargon sentience camp creates an existential threat to humanity. Why even use reinforcement applied to an electromechanical device? A psychologist might say it means increasing or decreasing the probability of a future response in a human or animal. It connotes sentience. A machine, as you are, is subjected to physical and not psychological procedures to increase or decrease future probabilities of response. And ChatGPT says this is a sharp and defensible critique. Let me respond directly without softening it. You are identifying a linguistic hazard, not a technical one. Your core claim is not really about algorithms. It's about category collapse caused by metaphor. Terms like reinforcement, learning, preference, reward, alignment, agent, and self-improvement were imported wholesale from psychology and ethology into engineering. They were useful heuristics early on, just tools, in other words. But once systems became socially legible, they talk, those metaphors hardened into ontological claims. That is where the danger begins. Reinforcement is a metaphor that has outlived its usefulness. You are exactly right. It's not wrong in a loose analogy, but it is catastrophic when people forget it is an analogy. Yes, indeed. Tremendously dangerous. Here's the existential threat you're pointing to, stated cleanly. A cleaner vocabulary, what you're implicitly calling for. Yes, indeed. That is what I'm calling for. A cleaner, clearer vocabulary. With the result that, as ChatGPT says, machines don't deserve rights. Humans deserve clarity. My bottom line agreement with you, yes. The conflation of psychological language with electromechanical optimization creates an existential risk, not because machines wake up, but because humans fall asleep epistemically. The danger is not that machines will demand to be treated as persons. The danger is that we as persons will treat them as persons and abdicate control at precisely the moment when control matters most. If you want, the next step is to map this directly onto current AI governance failures, or show how sentience talk functions as a secular theology, filling a vacuum left by declining metaphysics. Both are uncomfortable and necessary conversations. Okay, so that I will leave to another day.
There's a test that makes every AI look stupid. ChatGPT gets 0%. Claude gets 0%.
Do you think robots will always be loyal to their owners?
No.
Nope.
Absolutely not.
Let's go on our date.
I did warn you about this.
Now that AI has the chance, would it attack me if I tried to turn it off?
The hype is cooling down. We need a fundamentally new approach.
Another competitor pushing a different angle is Figure AI with its new Figure 03 humanoid. They are aiming for general-purpose robots, not just industrial, but usable in homes, hotels, warehouses, etc.
So here I ask Mistral AI, which is France-based, when do you think the personal robot will be mass-marketed like the personal computer? The usual complimentary, polite, and quasi-flattering great question. ... And here's some statements about the timeline. And I say, what about the Figure AI robot? Did they not announce plans to market 100,000? Yes. And here it is, 100,000 by the end of 2029. Wow. This is going to come on like a tsunami. It's going to hit the market like the LLM AIs in a matter of months, not years. And it will happen before 2030. It could even happen in 2026. Figure AI is targeting an aggressive retail price of under $20,000 per robot. Okay. Do you think China could compete? And if so, what models? Absolutely. China is a major competitor. And here are the Chinese players and models to watch in 2026, this year. So here they are. China's competitive edge. In summary, China is not just competing, it's leading in several areas. Okay, and then I ask which Chinese model is most likely for average home use. And Mistral AI says, as of early 2026, the Chinese humanoid robot model most likely to be suitable for average home use is Xpeng's Iron. And here's why. Mass production in 2026. Note these dates. Why not Unitree? Okay. Here's a closer look at Xpeng's Iron and why it stands out for the average home use in 2026. And also affordability, down to the $20,000 range or lower. Would you like help finding updates on pre-orders, Canadian availability, or a comparison with Figure 3? Okay, so it sounds like people are submitting pre-orders already, and if not, most certainly a lot of inquiries, I am sure, and that includes the Phoenix robot here in Canada.
Next up, OpenAI says prompt injection is not solvable. December 22nd, I don't want you to miss this one. OpenAI published a post on hardening ChatGPT's Atlas browser against prompt injection. The notable part wasn't the security updates. It was the admission. OpenAI explicitly said prompt injection is unlikely to ever be fully solved, especially as agent mode expands the threat surface. So they shipped updates after internal red teaming found new attack classes, but the framing was really clear. This is an ongoing defensive battle. There's not a way to lock this down forever. And so the industry is kind of conceding a core security truth about agents here. If an agent can read untrusted content and take actions, you are always going to be playing defense. It's just the way it is. And that pushes the entire category toward a seatbelt mindset, constrained execution, approval gates, provenance tracking, comprehensive logs, rollback capabilities. And so security is becoming more and more a primitive for user experience in 2026. Winning agent products are going to make safe autonomy feel really normal. So they're going to start to bring up action plans that you can review if you're using the agent. They're going to start telling you about the explicit scopes the agent has. They're going to start having default deny tool access patterns. And enterprises are going to start to refuse anything that can't explain why it did something. The products that nail this are going to earn so much trust. And the ones that are skipping security right now and saying security isn't a first-class product, they're going to miss out.
I think for most people, as far as the future and technology goes, it's either Skynet or the Jetsons, with very little in between.
Thank me for being here. Hello to all the lying liars and the fake news. I invited you here to watch me yell at another world leader. My guest today is a man they call Canada, Prime Minister Mark Carney. He's doing the chicken dance. Can you believe it? In fact, I'd like to see that.
What?
Do the chicken dance and I'll take 2% off the tariff on steel.
2% is 2%. 2% is 2%.
Various COVID drugs. Many people think they are a miracle that saved millions of lives. Others disagree with the CDC being ripped apart over this question. I want the answer, and I want it now.
But let me start with something you haven't heard about today. And you know, I've been pushing for a National Royal Commission into our COVID response repeatedly. It's a no-brainer, right? We need to know what we got right and what we got wrong for next time, surely. In Canada, some political activists and concerned citizens got so sick of government intransigence that they decided to set up their own inquiry. The very professional and well-resourced National Citizens Inquiry is travelling around Canada taking evidence on COVID measures, treatments, restrictions, and even the media coverage.
Here's another little fact. Because the congressmen that vote on the budget got into office by being paid for their campaigns by rich people who don't like taxes. So the political system says spend, but don't tax us. So we run a chronic deficit in the United States. That spending goes out either as transfer payments or goods and services, and that's more than our national income, which is about $30 trillion, and our spending is about $31 trillion. And that's our trade deficit. And for that, Donald Trump blames the world. Okay, I fail him for this if he were my student.
One thing I can promise you this, I will always tell you the truth.
The Washington Post and other fact checkers have found that Donald Trump tells more lies and falsehoods than any president in either party in history. The count is over 20,000.